The guy had me so rattled. I didn't know what was going on. That's
You know,
why,
he could have had me believing the world was flat, and I'd say yes.
isn't it? Well, that's why when I got on the phone, I started going after and challenging against other religions, because the tip should have been on there. I put it on. By the way, I don't understand why he said this. What he said.
It wasn't. It said 1995. That was it.
Who's actually? Okay, it was my mistake.
And you know what that tells me? That tells me that the store is ripping off their own people because they're keeping that money.
I gotta see if they charge. No, that's what I showed them. Probably never had it on. Maybe I wanted to, and I never did.
President Obama has been facing resistance from certain Democrats, rejection from many Republicans, and total opposition from Israel's prime minister. Defended the deal in no uncertain terms, and he laid out three alternatives. First, we can reach a robust and verifiable deal, like this one, and peacefully prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. The second option is we can bomb Iran's nuclear facilities, thereby starting another war in the Middle East. Third, we could pull out of negotiations, try to get other countries to go along and continue sanctions that are currently in place, or add additional ones, and hope for the best. In a moment on what a tough political sell this could be, but first, Jim Sciutto joining us now with details of what negotiators agreed to. Jim, break this deal down for our viewers. What exactly does it look like?
Well, here it is. So you take all the elements of Iran's nuclear program that has caused consternation here in Washington and Western capitals for years. It doesn't dismantle them or destroy them, but either modifies them, puts them under restrictions or greater monitoring. So, for instance, take the Fordo facility. This is an underground reinforced facility designed, frankly, to withstand American or Israeli bombs. Doesn't shut it down, keeps some centrifuges there, says that they can't spin uranium. So that's the new normal there. It takes, for instance, Iran's arsenal of 19,000 centrifuges, doesn't get rid of all of them, leaves 5,000 of them, so about a 75% reduction. And another path to a bomb potentially was the Arak heavy water facility. Again, doesn't tear it down, modifies it, changes its reactor so it can't produce material for a bomb. All these things to create that 1 year long breakout period that the Obama administration has said is its goal in this negotiation. In exchange for that, the West promises to lift all the economic sanctions that has built up against Iran for years, this remarkable international coalition, but retains the right to put them back on if Iran, at any point in this agreement or after this agreement, fails to comply. So that's the trade-off there. You know, the skeptics are going to say, you haven't torn down enough of the program. The supporters are going to say, listen, this is better than the option, which is going forward when Iran might even expand its program even more.
Jim, the president spoke out today, so he thinks this is, quote, a good deal. What's the reaction so far from Iran? I understand that they're pretty happy over this.
No question. Celebrations. I mean, you're seeing pictures in the street of people driving around, honking their horns, waving flags. There's a new Twitter phenomenon today of people taking, quote-unquote, selfies with President Obama because his speech in the Rose Garden that we just saw there was actually broadcast live on Iranian state television. That's a first. It's truly remarkable. You have to understand that, of course, the people of Iran, I've been there more than 10 times, they've been looking forward to this moment really for decades. It's not just about a nuclear agreement, a diplomatic accord. For them, it's about taking Iran out of prison, in effect, out of this pariah status. You know, today in Iran, you have to pay 2-3 times what you would normally pay for a car. They have to be smuggled in. It's hard to go to the universities that you want to go to. It's hard to get chemotherapy drugs that you want. Of course, it's hard for the government to get all the oil revenue at once as well. So for the Iranian people, this is a chance for them to be a normal country. That's what they've been looking forward to for some time. Really, you know, remarkable amount of celebration there because for them, this is a life-changing moment.
Yeah, of course it is. If the sanctions are eased and then eventually lifted, billions and billions of dollars will flow into that Iranian economy for those Iranian people. Jim Sciutto, thanks very much. As we mentioned, reaction has run the gamut. Cautious optimism from the Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, House Speaker John Boehner calling the framework an alarming departure from initial White House goals. Israeli officials saying any final agreement that comes from this deal would make the world a more dangerous place. Joining us now with more on the political fallout from all sides, Jim Acosta is joining us from the White House. Jim, I know Congress is in recess, but there have been lots of reactions so far around Washington tonight. What's the latest?
That's right, and the White House is concerned about this, Wolf, because obviously at this point, senior administration officials are saying they don't want Congress to move forward with any kind of new sanctions legislation on Iran while this diplomatic process continues. Keep in mind, today was just a tentative agreement. There's still another one that has to be reached by June 30th. And so at this point, you could say that the Democrats are standing by and sort of waiting to see more of these details here, but Republicans are really laying into this deal, Wolf. Senator Marco Rubio, who's potentially running for president, likely to run for president in 2016. He has a comment. We'll put it up on screen. He says, our message to Iran should be clear until the regime chooses a different path. The United States will continue to isolate Iran and impose pressure. Today's announcement takes us in the opposite direction. I fear we'll have devastating consequences for nuclear non-proliferation, the security of our allies and partners, and for U.S. interests in the region. And Wolf, he's not the only potential 2016er who has weighed in. Jeb Bush put out a tweet earlier this evening saying, I cannot stand behind the reported details of this flawed Iran agreement, but perhaps the one person that we're all waiting to hear from on all of this was Hillary Clinton. She put out a statement earlier this evening saying that diplomacy should be given a chance. Looking to see whether or not she would try to distance herself from the president. She did not.
She certainly did not. She said this is an important step towards a comprehensive agreement that would prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon and strengthen the security of the United States, Israel, and the region. Speaking of Israel, the president did make a phone call, Jim, to the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss this unprecedented deal. Tell us about that conversation. What do we know?
That's right. That's one of the many phone calls the president is making or will make. He also talked to the King of Saudi Arabia. He'll be talking with congressional leaders. But this call with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and we know this, they don't have a very good relationship. It has been strained in recent weeks, and perhaps it will be more so in the coming weeks. According to various readouts from this phone call, one from the White House, the president, of course, told the Israelis that their security will not be at stake with this deal. But that is not the readout that we got from the Israeli government. The spokesman for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was tweeting earlier this evening that Netanyahu told the president during this phone call that the deal as it stands right now will threaten Israel's survival. And so, Wolf, I imagine we're going to be hearing more from the Israelis, including the Prime Minister, in the coming days.
Yeah, the statement I saw from the Prime Minister's office, a deal based on this framework would threaten the survival of Israel. Such a deal would not block Iran's path to the bomb. It would pave it. Very negative reaction coming in from the Israelis. Jim Acosta, thank you very much. More now on what this all means here. Let's take our chief international correspondent, also David Case, former chief U.S. Weapons Inspector in Iraq. He currently serves on the State Department International Security Advisory Board, and former George W. Bush National Security Council Senior Director Michael Durant. Christian, after looking at all the specifics of this framework agreement, is a good deal for the United States. What do you make of this?
Well, the president himself said today that this was a historic opportunity. If it's implemented, it is a very, very good deal. Indeed, of course, it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect, but it is the best that can be achieved at this time. And he said that if you look at all the specifics, the draconian inspections, having a certain amount of enrichment, that some of them facilities will be dismantled, that this is the most strictly governed nuclear accord of any nuclear program ever in history. So that, I think, is pretty convincing for the President of the United States.
Usually I eat by myself. Today we had dinner together.
Great excitement
She ate
there by
downstairs.
the people of Iran who have desperately wanted this. For the first time, I think ever, the speech of the President of the United States will be broadcast live on national Iranian television. And that's significant because President Obama laid out this fact sheet, which then the foreign minister, the negotiator, Javad Zarif, tweeted, oh, you know, there's no need to lay out the fact sheet so soon because that contains the details. And Iran has made a lot of concessions.
Yeah, we saw the pictures of them celebrating the streets in Tehran. Mike, you think this is a bad deal? You believe it actually might make a nuclear breakout for Iran more likely? Is that your opinion? Yes, it is. But before I'd say it's a bad deal, I'd say it's not really a deal yet. The President and John Kerry are pretending that there's more there than there actually is. They had to head off the Senate, and so they are presenting this as a kind of a done deal when there's a lot of room yet negotiation. Christian mentioned that Javad Zarif was tweeting about the fact sheet. One of the things he tweeted was that the administration is claiming that the sanctions are going to be rolled back gradually, whereas he's saying that they're going to be rolled back immediately. So there's huge differences on major issues. We'll see how quickly those sanctions are rolled back, assuming this deal is implemented. David, you say the framework that you've seen so far is pretty good, but that the key issue is how the framework will actually be implemented. How challenging is that going to be?
Let's hope it was a good enough show.
Well, there are two key issues. One is it's a framework. You have to negotiate a very complex arrangement. That's the first. And the second is how do you actually implement this? And particularly, how do you implement over 10, 15, 25 years? Choose your number because they're scattered applying to different things in this. That's very difficult. And in the history of arms control, almost unprecedented.
The Israelis, they're not very happy with this deal, David, as you well know. But let me get your reaction, Christian. The Israeli intelligence minister was quick to condemn it. I know the president had a phone conversation with the prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. We don't know what was said, but the Israeli statements I've seen, they don't like this deal.
Will be liked.
Well, we knew that. I mean, look, they have been trying to make sure this deal doesn't happen for a long time. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been, no deal is better than bad. So they have never liked it, and they believe that it just sort of kicks the ball down the road. And of course, the Sunni Arab partners and allies of the United States are on the same page as Israel in this regard. They don't like it at all. Prince Turki Al Faisal, the former intelligence minister from Saudi Arabia, told me that he thought it would kick off a nuclear arms race in the region. I do, however, think and agree with what both gentlemen just said. We know that it has yet to be implemented and yet to be fully signed off. There are a lot of technical issues and details to be fully negotiated by the real deadline, which is June 30th. And then we really don't know, because it isn't clear exactly the parameters of when the sanctions will be lifted. Iran wants them all lifted, immediately, if they implement it. But what does that mean? How do you measure that? For Iran, lifting them is huge. And the notion of phase relief, certainly the Iranians don't talk about it as phase relief.
Mike, under the framework agreement, the U.S. sanctions involving the nuclear program, they eventually would be eased, but the sanctions dealing with Iran's support for terrorism, human rights abuses, they will remain in place. Is that okay? Well, I don't think we should get ourselves. Once we start removing these sanctions up front, there's going to be a huge economic boon to Iran, and its status in the international community is going to be changed overnight. And that should worry us greatly. I mean, they're going to have, in addition to an economic boom, they're not going to have commercial partners, a new status in the international system, and they will be in a much strengthened position from which to break out. The inspections, you were a UN weapons inspector. You think that they're going to be allowed to go wherever they need to? Military facilities, any place that there's a suspicion the Iranians might be up to something?
Well, that's the easy part of figuring out whether you're allowed to go where you want to go. The hard thing in this deal is understanding where you